call a meeting of the August meeting of the Crewe Town Council to order. At this time, I'd ask the Representative Bradley to lead us in prayer.
Pray again. Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you so much for this meeting together of this town book. Lord, we ask that your spirit would rest upon this town, upon its leaders, and Lord, and upon its people. Lord, we ask as we come together, Lord, that you would guide us in wisdom and in all knowledge for your honor and for your glory. It's in your Son's name we pray. Our Lord, our Savior, and our friend. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Normally, we have public hearings. We don't have any public hearings scheduled. But I will call up Mr. Milt Wilson, who is the chairman of the Planning Commission for the town of Crewe. Would you want to?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After much deliberation and discussion, the Planning Commission has recommended that we change the zoning of the 600 block of East Carolina Avenue from R2 to C1.
Okay. The Planning Commission is making a formal recommendation that we change the zoning on that block from R1 to C2 that will allow for the Family Dollar to go into place. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Miskovic, did you want to give a presentation first?
Mayor, absolutely.
Okay, Mr. Miskovic, you've got a presentation for us on Family Dollar and the type of building that they intend to put there for folks to see it.
Bear with me, okay.
While he's doing that.
While we wait on that, Mr. Boswell, didn't you say that you reached out to everyone in writing that lives on that street behind there?
I did, except the people on the corner, but I did not know. I knew everybody else, and they were my friends, and I wanted to know what was happening because they were my friends. I don't know the people on the corner.
But so aside from that one individual you said you couldn't get, you reached out to all of them, and I don't see anyone here, upset about that, right?
Well, in all fairness, I think you know I got a letter from Walton Hunter's daughter, Nancy Whalen. And she was not in favor of it, and I forwarded the letter on to town council.
Okay.
And I also, I think, forwarded it to Ms. Davis, so you would know the concerns and could address them. I didn't know it. But no, she wasn't. And also, her son wrote me, and her brother wrote me.
So basically one family, probably.
Well, they owned that house together, so I understand.
And they were against
They
it,
were-
but you didn't really get any pushback from anybody else, and I don't see them here.
The only other person that contacted me was the gentleman that lived right behind me, and he said, okay with you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Miskovic.
Okay,
All
Mayor,
right. If everybody wants to turn around so they can see the screen.
Sure.
Do we need to cut the light?
Can everyone see?
Absolutely.
Cut them out, yeah, you can't see. very
Okay.
Might miss it.
Sorry, let me go grab that.
Much better.
Okay. Family Dollar has 4 store prototypes. The nearest example of the prototype plan for Crewe is in Roanoke Rapids. So I took a trip down there a week or so ago and took a few photos while I was down there. It's a brand new store. Looks really good from the outside. And then just to give you some visuals, because I had emailed some of the individuals with the project, and they had mentioned some of the groceries available in the store. And at first, it sounded to me like it would be very similar to what's offered in Dollar General. But when I went down there, I saw that the expanded grocery selection is more than what's offered. So you walk in the door here. You have sodas and chips and such, and then along the corner over here is also a cooler with the sodas that the single serve sodas and such. You can see that they have a lot of non-perishable items. You have your breads and your sweets. A fairly nice cereal selection. Bear with me. Okay. You have drinks, teas and energy drinks and peanuts and the like. Waters and TVs that don't work. Okay. Waters and sodas and okay, let's get this through this as quickly as I can. Now it's just not.
How old did you say that store was?
That store is brand new.
Okay.
Would you know how old the store
Is it the one off of?
49 and 48?
That one is Gaston. That one that's the one. That one is probably right at 6 months, maybe. Maybe at Christmas time.
Okay.
It opened,
Very good.
something like that.
And they keep it well stocked, and it was a very clean store as well, which I was impressed about. More non-perishable items, fruits, canned fruits, and pudding cups and the like. I was very impressed by the stuff in the coolers. So you have lots of milks and juices. Looking from the other angle, ice creams and frozen pizzas. Ready to eat meals. Paper products. Baby things.
Are you of the opinion it will expand our grocery options?
I believe it will expand our grocery options. It will also bring competition. That
Good.
and up at the front of the store, they also had a seasonal section that I looked at. Coolers and grills and charcoal for the summer. They also had some of I don't believe they're included on this presentation, but the toiletries and things like that, and a small clothes section. But I'd say that a good 2/3 of the store was devoted to edible things, which I was really impressed about. I'm glad I went down because it certainly left a good impression on me. In addition, as we've heard, the different pros include approximately 12 new jobs, including a store manager. Grocery products, potential for some advertisement in the local paper. Competition for existing businesses. Cigarette tax revenue, they did have a cigarette section in the store. Real estate tax revenue and increased property value in the immediate vicinity. The cons, which we discussed last week, include commercial facade in the lot, increased traffic turning off 460 shortly after the 4-2 lane change, which is an issue for VDOT, I believe, and then increased foot traffic through the otherwise quiet residential areas. But the Economic Development Committee met later that day, that evening, and recommended we approve the rezoning request. We also recommend that a fence or some other barrier be built to control foot traffic.
That's deal. All right, so I want to thank you for your due diligence. Council has heard the Planning Commission has recommended approval. The Economic Development Committee of the Council has recommended approval. Is there any further discussion before, well, let me ask for a vote, or ask for a motion first. Do we have a motion to approve?
I so move.
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
What is the, is there contingent about the barrier plan to reduce the foot traffic? Or are we just approving it and whatever, however it goes after that, it goes?
I think, I was going to ask, do you?
Let me mention something, Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Sure, yes, sir.
This is a zoning request to change. They've got to get a building permit,
Yes.
and they ultimately get it from the county, but the town has to approve it. Because you don't have to approve it unless you are assured that they're going to do these things. My dealings with these people, I don't know, they seem to be fine and have a great deal of integrity, but I really don't know them that well, but I enjoy talking to them. But, you know, you've got that building permit option as a second.
I don't know, just my opinion, but I'm comfortable that some of the items that were mentioned by Ms. Whalen, her concerns, have been addressed. And these things, we do have somewhat in writing, that they're aware of this situation. The lighting was one of the things, I think you talked about that last time, that
Right.
the lighting would be limited to their area, would not stay on all night.
Correct.
There was the deal about the barrier. They had already said that if they would put up a barrier, they proposed a natural barrier, which in my opinion would look better. And I'm assuming it would be something like these tall spruce trees that you see in areas. So I feel like they've addressed most of the concerns that everybody had. I don't see it being noisy. I don't see it being, the traffic situation has got to be handled out front, so I don't see any problems on the back street or the alley. They've agreed to put barriers around the garbage, take care of that possible problem. That's just my 2 cents worth.
And if there weren't any concerns, I don't know who read the previous letter that I did write after the last council meeting, that actually, I think Barnes, Boykin actually signed and sent that letter. Charles Thomas, who is his partner, has also sent another letter just confirming, he sent it this afternoon late, confirming that they are definitely plan to do what it is that they have said and agreed to do, and it will go through the site planning process.
Do you wish to enter that letter into the record?
If you'd like to have it, I have it here.
Sure, we'll give it to the, put it in our minutes. All right, with that in mind, if we have any further discussion with council? If there's no further discussion, we have a motion on the floor to approve the zoning change request. At this time, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimously. We do have a zoning change.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will look forward to working with the town, and we'll be back in touch later.
I'll tell y'all something else too that might make you feel a little better too. I think there was some concern about it. Maybe they would assign at least some other. I called Charles Thomas, the president, this morning. I said, Charles, can you tell me percentage-wise, if you can, how certain that if a town rezones this lot, will Family Dollar go in it? He said 100%. The contracts are drawn, the people are on standby. All we got to do is sign them and start moving. So I don't think anything else is coming but Family Dollar.
Outstanding, gentlemen. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Whit, thank you. With that in mind, we go into the delegations from the public. Do we have any delegations from the public at this time, or citizen comment? Yes, ma'am. How are you? Please state your name for the record.
I'm Susan Christian. As you all know, I'm from the Wash Bucket Initiative, and so I'm one of the Wash Bucket people, and that's why I'm standing up tonight. Wanted to let everybody here know that we finally now have all of the materials necessary, donated materials necessary to complete the roof on the gazebo at the park. So that project is ready to move forward if it's okay with the town.
Do they need a vote? I don't have a problem. I mean, do we need a formal vote, or is that a town manager thing?
Wouldn't hurt.
All right, with that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to allow the Wash Bucket Brigade to go forward and make the repairs on the roof of the gazebo at the Crewe Municipal Park, sometimes called Hagberg Park.
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Ma'am, you have permission. March on.
Okay. The second item is one of the things that one of the projects that we have begun is power washing the downtown streets of Crewe. And we're finding out that that is a much slower process than what we had hoped it would be, but it is what it is. So I've been in talking to Wade quite a bit for Wade.
Got that right.
But he's agreed to get, to make sure we get the power, and I think we have finally figured out a way to bring some water to the event, which is another problem. So I have personally been reaching out to some of the businesses to ask them if we could use their water if necessary. With the exception of one business, that I've talked to, we've had an overwhelming desire to help. So we're really pleased about that, and so as time goes on, I'm thinking it's probably gonna be mostly me at this point because my time is more free than the other members of the committee. You may see 1 or 2 or 3 of us out there power washing the sidewalks off and on throughout the next weeks. You know, we hope to get it done before the winter sets in. So, and if anybody takes notice, you'll notice that we did do a small section, and if you can actually see the line where we stopped. And we started on the corner across the street from Town Hall. And it's pretty magnificent to see what's, you know, just to kind of see the dirt come up out of the sidewalks and the sludge that's been raised by doing that. So we're kind of proud of that. That's kind of cool. Okay, and so in keeping with the wash bucket initiative, I have kind of a statement to make, okay? We developed this initiative because we want to help give old towns in South Central Virginia facelifts. We want to help old towns revive themselves. And since we're all from Crewe, we decided Crewe would be the first place for us to start. So we have lots of really good ideas on the table. But when we do that, you know, personally, you know, I'm the president of the committee right now, and I find myself driving all over town all the time, where they'll tell you, I mean, they're driving him nuts these days, you know, with comments. What about this? Or what about this? Or why isn't this getting done? Why isn't this getting done? And it's going to be important, and maybe I'm a little bit naive, and maybe almost childlike, I don't know. I don't even care anymore. What I want is our town to look really good and crisp and sharp from the inside out. I want the citizens in our community to be proud of where they live, and I want us as a community to be proud of how our downtown looks. But it's a community effort. It's not, can't be done by 4 people like me and Phil and whoever else is on this committee. It's got to be done as a community effort. So I guess it's kind of my hope that as we start to do little projects, that the people around us will start looking and say, wow, this looks better. You know, this is a better place because of what happened. And maybe we'll start getting a little bit of interest from the community itself, which at this point we really don't have any interest from the community. Because I think that when the town starts to look bedraggled, the citizens become discouraged and just trash lays on top of trash, and you know. So at any rate, so that's kind of one thing. So at any rate, so I made a little statement tonight, and so I wrote down here, citizens need to be encouraged to participate in town pride, which includes maintenance and upkeep of personal properties, rentals, and businesses. When the residents fail to show this pride, we need our town to enforce all of its ordinances and laws in place to include such things as we've been talking about in recent months: grass cutting, you know, dog ordinance, maintenance of abandoned vehicles. All these things make a difference, but to me, why have the ordinance if we're not going to enforce it? So, and additionally, I need to say, we can't make exceptions to the rule. It shouldn't matter who owns the property, or what they do for a living, or what side of town it's on. These ordinances need to be enforced for all people, whether we're rich, or whether we're poor, or whether we're in between, because we all live here together. Personally, I spent over 32 years in the real estate industry. I sold real estate for over 32 years. And so I think that I can speak from a point of knowledge and expertise as to what it means to your property values and my property values and your property values, to their values, as to how we keep our town. So if we have a decrepit town, our property values are going to go down. If we have a crisp, clean town, our properties are going to go up. But this is for everybody: landlords, tenants, and homeowners. So I guess I'm asking everybody tonight, you know, that's here tonight, and this is just a small group, that all of us start really taking pride in where we live, because it's really, really important. So that's my speech tonight.
All right, thank you, ma'am. I would just say one thing, though, to generate volunteers. One of the problems that you deal with when you have volunteers is that They have limited amount of time, and what you need to do is set an exact time in a 2-hour block and say, this is exactly what we're going to do. And volunteers will generally turn out for that amount of time to do just that, but when that is up, they've got to go, because, we're so many of us are overtasked.
Right, and we understand that, and we understand that the projects we've got going on right now are not the type of projects that we can really use a lot of volunteers at.
Mhm.
But as we move forward, we will have projects that
What I
will.
would recommend is that you, through the journal and through WSBS and outreach through the churches, let them know when you're gonna do something. Be the best bet. All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, any other delegations from the public? If there are none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Matters on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be approved by one motion. Any item can be removed from the calendar at the request of a member of council and may be voted on separately. At this time, do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar? Mr. Reed, second. Mr. Abel,
So with additions. Right?
do you have an addition? Right. You have a bill sheet addition in there? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right, with that in mind, is there any discussion? If there is no discussion, we've had a motion, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. At this time, we'll move into the town manager's report. Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Just briefly update you on some things going on. I think I reported last month that the Tennessee Avenue tank rehabilitation would begin, I thought within 2 weeks. We did run into an issue where we didn't have any telemetry on our railroad tank. Telemetry, for those who don't know, is the ability to monitor the tank level from the plant. That has been set up and installed and operational. I got word today from Southern Corrosion that they plan to be here to start work on Wednesday. We will not immediately be draining that tank. They will use the water for some power washing, but at some point we will. I want citizens to know that the biggest effect they may notice is a drop in pressure somewhat within the town. It may not even be noticeable, but if you do experience a drop in pressure, it's because we've got one less tank. The gravity is centrally moving from the middle of town to the railroad tank. So the other thing we'll have to keep a close eye on, and the plant knows this, is fire protection. Let's just hope we don't have a fire. If we do, then we're ready to, all of the plant operators are on standby to come in immediately and start the plant up. So those are the concerns with this. And we're looking at probably a 2 to 3 week completion period. We've started this past couple of weeks. You may have noticed the tank coming through town where we're cleaning the lagoons. This is a process that we started a couple of years ago, you may recall, where we, instead of paying a contractor $27,000 per lagoon, we bought a tractor and a tank. So they're doing that also right now. That's saving the town a considerable amount of money. I wanted to mention this past Wednesday that we did meet with the Department of Aviation on the situation with the trees and the obstructions at the airport. We've hired local, they let us hire a local, Bob Timberlake, as a survey. He's going to go out and survey this glide slope to get a picture of all the trees in this obstacle, so that we can hopefully take them all down at one time, as opposed to taking 2 or 3 down and then finding more behind it. This way the surveyor will be able to shoot through and give us our report more on that way. And the water situation, God looks out for us. We were right on the verge. I mean, literally a day of going on water restrictions and to begin pumping as we've done in the past. We got rain, we were back up to, we used 10 inches below the spillway as a guide. We looked up the next day to 4 inches and we're now running over again, so we're in good shape on water supply. That's all right.
All right, Yes, sir. Can you ensure that Mr. Miller gets a copy of your...
I'll send it to you then.
Any questions for the town manager? If there are no questions for the town manager, we'll now have the town attorney's report.
Yes,
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you. We are ready to go on the theater building in town. All of the applicable time limits have expired. There was no challenge to the judge's order, and so we can begin tearing down the house. I mean, the building, not the house. You're like, what house?
Theater.
No, the theater building. So, that's exciting news. The second thing, you all had asked me to look into source water protection, specifically relating to Crystal Lake. And there is a program that's on the Virginia Department of Health their website if you all want to take a look at it. And it gives some steps that we as a locality can take to begin to regulate our source water. And some of the steps that it requires, the first, it doesn't require it, but it suggests it. Collaborations, what this means is collaborating the town of Crewe with other localities and things. And what I had expressed to Wade is obviously we'll have to get the county involved in this level. And then also collaborating with other experts or people that may have opinions or use the water, things like that. The second step is forming a local advisory committee. The third step is to request a source water assessment. The fourth step is to gather the information from that. The fifth step with that, which I think is the most important step, is to develop a source water protection program. Seventh, implement the program, and then eighth is to review and update the plan. And I did get a copy of the plan offline, and it's a pretty comprehensive plan that includes, certain things about, goals and promoting education, limiting use, holding meetings, things like that. And so,
Who does the source water assessment? Is that a state responsibility?
my understanding from what I have looked at is the Department of Health would be assisting us
So we
with
need to
that.
engage Jamie Holly? Is that,
We have to go to our representative in the state, Crewe,
okay. All right, so that's probably the most important action item we need to take. If you can, what I'd like for you to do is to coordinate with John Procyse tomorrow, and just tell him the problem is that we need to move forward to make sure that our water is protected. Can you send us a link, or send the town manager the link to that, and you
Sure.
can forward it to members of council?
Yes, I'll email it to them right now for the meeting.
All right. Any questions for the town attorney, or are you done? I'm sorry.
Oh, that was all.
And
Okay.
one more thing. The street abandonment.
Yes, I have the ordinance for the street abandonment, and it's just a draft of the ordinance from last time. All that needs to happen is that Tiffany would just sign off on it as enacted, and then we record it at the courthouse.
So we had the public hearing.
Yes, we've had the public hearing, we voted on everything, so now it's just recording the ordinance at the courthouse, which is the official conveyance of that property to the adjacent landowners on both sides.
Very good. Any questions for the town attorney? Hearing no questions for the town attorney, we now move on to the mayor's report. I have loaded you up with stuff, most of it's symbolic in nature. One of them is an invitation to celebrate family by the Kingdom Community Church. It's going to be on August 26th from noon to 6 on Saturday. And it's in Cooper Park. And this is a major event. They've invited the mayor, the town council. My understanding is they've invited everybody in Crewe. Is that, are you participating?
Possibly.
Supporting it?
Yeah,
Okay.
we weren't aware of it until actually National Night Out, and they came and asked us to be part of
Okay, outstanding. So that could very well be a multi-denomination event that involves the entire Crewe Burkeville area. That's a good thing, whenever you get people together for that. I sent you 3 resolutions, one of them which was for the proposed resolution for National Night Out. Let me tell you something, when the town can get that kind of coverage in the front page of the paper that says we had a great success, that's always a good sign. So even though Phil's picture was on the front. But that means we're doing something right. And as you see in the resolution, I talked to several people to try to get an estimate, a ballpark estimate, and I was getting anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400 people. Talking to various other folks, would you concur with that?
That's right.
And I just thought, well, as Wade's wife told me, it was huge compared to what has happened in the past, and I just wanted, it's a team effort. It wasn't just 1 or 2 people doing this. The entire police department team got involved, and then they brought on more members of the team, such as the National Guard and the Emergency Squad and the fire departments. So it really was a massive community event, and I just wanted to give a formal thanks to all those people that participated, in addition to the 50-odd sponsors. Most of them were members of the Crewe Burkeville Commerce, so you had local business involvement there as well. The second one is the class of 1977 40th reunion, just a resolution of recognition. Class of 77 is meeting later this month, or September, and they went to Nottoway High School when it was called Nottoway Senior High School, and I thought we would do that on their behalf. And then I've added in a General Assembly agenda for Virginia State Parks. The Virginia Association for Parks works to develop or basically lobby for improvements in Virginia State Parks. Our community, Nottoway County, Crewe, Burkeville, Blackstone benefit from Virginia State Parks because of the numbers. If you look at the numbers, over 100,000 go to Twin Lakes. You get about 50,000 a year go to Sailor's Creek. You get another 100,000 that go down to the High Bridge. In addition, they have to drive through here to go to the Southside Virginia parks. When they drive through here to go to those parks, which are destination points, they're stopping in Crewe to stop at our railroad park, which gets 4,000 to 5,000 people a year at least. That's what I've been told. But they spend money here. So Virginia State Parks are a critical element of our rural infrastructure for tourism development. This is not going to cost us any money to approve, but I did want to throw it out to you, but this puts us on record as supporting funding for Virginia State Parks. We're not asking really for anything other than what they need to run the parks. So those are the 3 resolutions. Are there any discussions on those resolutions?
Just a quick comment on the last resolution, requesting VML to place the issue on the legislative agenda.
Yes.
If it's not already on there, it may be too late. The last legislative meeting is on Friday.
Okay.
But I'll certainly bring it up at the meeting.
Bingo. I don't know if they'll do it or not, but
Okay.
let's please bring it
It
up.
may already be, at least in their, if not on their legislative agenda, in the policy
I
statement.
think it's in a policy statement, but
Okay.
I did want to go through the formality of asking because that's what we're there for.
Okay.
And we have you there now. So
That'll work.
that's good. One other thing, I've got John Tyler Community College. It was not John Tyler Community College. It was another college, and I forget whichever one. And I'll make that fix before we sign off. Any other discussion?
Well then, Mayor, I move to approve the first resolution regarding National Night Out.
Okay. What you want to do all 3 of them?
Can we do all 3 at once? I move to approve all 3 resolutions.
All right.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? With that in mind, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign. Motion's carried for those resolutions. Thank you all for that. We had a constituent issue that really, she lives right outside of town. Her family runs a business in town. But she lives just outside of town on Indian Oak Road. There's heavy traffic through there, speeding and that kind of thing. I've engaged VDOT on that. I've engaged the county, and I've engaged the town manager, and we have requested that we do some traffic control down there. Because apparently people are whipping around that corner at a very high speed. She's had 3 dogs killed. she's not worried about her dogs as much as she is her children, because she's got a couple small children also. And that, so it is a safety threat, and I didn't want you aware of that. And that is all I have got. Any questions for me? Very good. We now got the committee reports. Infrastructure Committee is Mr. Sisk, who is not here. Mr. Knight, Mr. Foss, Mr. Miskovich.
Not anything I know of, we've been talking about the airport.
Okay.
But we got a meeting on the 18th, Friday.
Okay.
We're working on that.
All right.
We're working on that with
Bill's going around ahead.
All right. Finance Committee,
no,
Personnel Committee.
Just want to thank the police department and all the sponsors for a wonderful national night out. It's really a great event.
Thank you, ma'am. Volunteer Services Committee,
No report.
Economic Development Committee.
The Economic Development Committee met a couple weeks ago. It all blends together now. And the discussed several items which I'll bring up in a continuing new business.
Okay. With that in mind, we'll move into continuing business. Item A was Family Dollar. Do we need to, that's done. So we'll need to discuss that. Sign ordinances.
Thank you, Mayor. If council will pull out their document draft sign ordinance. As you'll recall, several months ago, we discussed the possibility of sign ordinances to limit certain to put restrictions on various signs. The Infrastructure Committee had voted to leave things as is. The Economic Development Committee voted to leave most things as is, but we did request that council consider at the council meeting the ordinance here, which basically requires maintenance of signs in commercial districts. A lot of what this is more bureaucratic things to allow for us to do this ordinance. But the main section in there is on the second page. After applicability, the main section is sign maintenance. The owner of a sign and the owner of the premises on which any sign is located shall be jointly and severably liable to maintain every sign, including its illumination sources, in compliance with this chapter and all applicable laws, in a safe and secure condition, in a neat and orderly condition, and in good working order at all times, and to prevent the development of any rust, corrosion, rot, or other deterioration in either the physical appearance or the safety of every sign. I mean, basically, this is taken from the city of Norfolk.
City of Norfolk.
This, and that is the main crux of this proposed ordinance. So basically, it requires businesses to maintain their signs. If you drive down the road, you'll see several signs that are not maintained. The things that we didn't include were limiting temporary signs, billboards, things like that. We decided was too much on some businesses. So basically, we just want sign ordinances for maintenance. Okay. And we would ask that the council authorize a public hearing scheduled for the regular meeting in September for the proposed ordinance. And of course, have the town attorney review it all, make any edits.
Do you want her to review it before we schedule a public meeting, a public hearing?
I'm not sure if that's necessary, but I'll entertain suggestions from the rest of council.
I can review it before it go on the paper, if you all want me to do that.
Any discussion from council?
So this would be the only.
That's the only substantive section. Like the rest of the legislative statement and findings, it's probably over the top, but because signs present a First Amendment issue, we're really emphasizing that. The intent of the ordinance is to ensure ordinances are content neutral and do not interfere with free speech. Applicability, just if we can just conform all of that with our current ordinances. Enforcement, again, if we can just conform that, complaints regarding violations, persons liable, procedures upon discovery of violations, and penalties and remedies for violations. All that just needs to be integrated with what we currently have. So it's, I mean,
What is our current ordinance say, Grant? You know,
I'm not aware of any sign of this ordinance.
We do.
We have a sign ordinance.
We do. But it's not that big. It deals more with size.
The size of it.
Right, exactly. So it doesn't require maintenance.
You know, one of the problems that we have is that for the Commonwealth's attorney, we've got ordinances you can drive a Mack truck through. So, I mean, that's one of the, that's why we can't enforce some of those ordinances.
Well, that's
We
kind
can
of what
enforce
worries me about
ordinances
this.
if we choose to.
To
I mean, you know, like a lot of ordinances that the town has, this can be a matter of opinion. And the question I would have is who has the opinion?
The chief administrative officer, which is you.
Okay. But from a legal point of view, Tessie, if somebody wanted to contest that, they could. Now, if you compare it to a building inspector or a contractor that makes a recommendation, then you're talking about more than just an opinion. So I'm in favor of this, but I don't want to I caution putting anything else on the books that cannot be enforced.
Well, I understand, but if Norfolk has done it, I would think that it's probably gone through pretty good vetting and review.
That's fine, I'm just pointing out.
But Norfolk's also a city too.
Well, I understand that, I understand.
And do we know how well they enforce it? That's really the issue. I mean,
I believe they enforce it. When I was at a VML conference a year or two ago, I went to one session that was given by the, on signs, given by the city attorney for the city of Norfolk. And he said that, you know, if there's any questions, he's always available for localities to reach out to as well. Assuming he's still there.
All right, with that in mind, do we have a motion to advertise this for a public hearing?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion, have a second?
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Place this in a public hearing, advertise this for a public hearing, and further discussion. That will give everyone on council a chance to review this in greater depth as well, and make recommended changes. And of course, the town attorney will review it before it gets advertised. And we have a motion and a second. With that in mind, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed by like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. All right. Water rates.
Thank you, Mayor. Another piece of old business that we've been discussing for months now. I would propose that we decrease in-town business water rate base fee from $15 to $5. An increase out-of-town business fee for over 3,000 gallons from $5.09 to $5.56. And just a few points, our 91 in-town business water customers are often small businesses with tight budgets. Many use minimal water, like simply having a restroom for personal use. Decreasing the in-town business rate base fee by $10 will help our small businesses by saving them $120 per year at a minimal cost to the town. Our 9 out-of-town business water customers use nearly 100 million gallons of water per year. This puts a strain on our system, overtime for water treatment staff, chemicals, and additional costs associated with pumping water from Crystal Lake to the western side of town or to west of town. While the town of Crewe has award-winning quality water, our water delivery system is 100 years old, resulting in citizens' anecdotal concerns about the water. Additionally, the aged delivery system has a greater potential for line breaks, especially in the cold winter months. We need to pursue an aggressive system replacement strategy. Shifting the burden bore by our in-town businesses and the burden of delivery system replacement costs to the 9 customers who put the most strain on our system is the most equitable solution for our citizens. Given this, our water revenue needs are as follows: $910 to offset the cost of reduction of in-town business rates, and $46,000 for water maintenance and reserve fund. Each, and if council will look at the third page there of the proposal, you'll see that each 1 cent increase in out-of-town business fee for over 3,000 gallons usage results in additional annual revenue of $991. An increase of 47 cents will give us this necessary revenue. To make the increase more palatable for out-of-town business customers, council can authorize the town manager to negotiate and enter into flat rate contracts with our largest usage customers. This has been used by most localities servicing state and federal facilities, and I recommend any contract include a clause for renegotiating every 5 years. So the next steps would be to authorize a public hearing to decrease in-town business water rate base fee from $50 to $5, and increase out-of-town business fee for over 3,000 gallons from $5.09 to $5.56. Step 2, authorize the town manager to negotiate a flat rate contracts with our largest usage customers. And 3, authorize a public hearing to codify flat rate contracts with our largest usage customers. That I believe needs to go into an ordinance because we were supposed to be equitable for all of our customers at charge rates. So that would be a public hearing on that, I believe. And just some additional information, you have the revenues and expenditures from fiscal year 15 through 17, and the proposal and what that looks like in numbers.
All right, is there any discussion on Mr. Misfit's proposal? Actually, this is from the Economic Development Committee, right?
No, sir. Okay. This is something that council, various parts of council have been discussing for.
Okay, good. Question, why decrease from 15 to 5 when we could just zero out, put them on par with the...
I imagine that we could zero them out, but zeroing out the base fee might be more complicated for town staff. Okay. Having a slight base fee of $5.
Okay. The out-of-town business fee, did y'all look at just punching it to $6, or is this based on total maintenance?
I could enter in $6, but I didn't want to go more than what we needed because, again, every 1 cent increase is $991. An additional 44 cents would be almost an additional $40,000 from those 9 customers. I don't want to overdo it.
It's a state. It's the prison. It's Piedmont. It's the behavioral thing over here. Those are the ones you're really talking about, right?
Well, also the county.
And the county, okay, the school system.
Right. So I don't want to overburden our customers simply because we can.
Does the town manager have thoughts that he wants to share with council?
Hundreds. As y'all know, I've been talking about this for quite some time. Field action's been put into it. We did some legwork. We had the engineers look at it too. I definitely think that we need to consider some changes. Most of you know how I feel about. I feel like, well, the majority of our water does go out of town. We're glad to have those customers, and I don't want anybody to think that we aren't. But I don't think right now they're paying for all the extra things that Phil mentioned to supply them with water. And I think what we're trying to do is be fair here. We're not trying to gouge, but as the majority uses of water, they should pay the majority of the cost. If they choose not to buy water from the town, that's their choice, and they can find alternatives. And how would that affect us? Probably would hurt us in revenue, but I'm still not 100% sure that our supply issues that come up every summer would not be an issue. So there's several ways of looking at this thing.
Okay, do you think, in your opinion, or have, in what you looked at, do you think 556 is enough of an increase?
Yes, for the out of town.
Okay.
And the negotiated rate, I agree with him too. If nothing else, we charge what other localities charge in correctional facilities in the state of Virginia.
Okay.
And that's considerably more than what we're charging now, but not to a point where we're gouging. So I agree with that.
Right, so this is just simply a baseline. If the town manager wants to consider other,
Okay.
anything additional as part of
The only other thing I would maybe recommend, because her department did so much work on the sewer project and how we finance this loan, that they take a look at this and give their opinion on how they feel like it may affect us
All right,
from that perspective.
are you good with that?
Absolutely.
All right, well, with that in mind, what we'll do is table this for action for the next meeting. In the interim, the town manager will send this to Hurt and Profit, our engineers, and get their feedback on this. So you got that?
Yes.
All right, good. Thank you, Mr. Miskovic.
Thank you.
Right, okay. I've got on there proposed animal ordinances. The only reason I put it on there was to kind of ping everybody. We've talked over several months about several animal ordinances, one of which is animal waste pickup. We have discussed kennels. We have not actually done anything with it. Kennels are legal in town. And we have a kennel that has popped up that an individual has created some issues with the neighbor. I don't know that we need kennels in town. I would like council to consider outlawing kennels in town. The county is the one that authorizes kennels. And frankly, I don't know that I would want a dog kennel right next door to me in the middle of town. I mean, people have a right to their privacy. Dogs interfere on that when they're barking. And that's, in fact, it impacts other people's qualities of life. We're not going to act on it tonight, obviously, but I'm throwing it out there. The pet restrictions, that's something else we may want to consider because we've had the feral cat issue. Clarification on the noise ordinance. It has a hole that you can drive a Mack truck through, and it has to be fixed, along with the barking dog ordinance. And then chickens in town. And do we have a recommendation on the chickens in town? Who had that? Was that you? Not yet. All
I
right.
don't see where the personnel committee should make a recommendation on chickens.
Chickens in town? Okay.
But I did provide council with the suggestions that were
Right.
discussed before.
Right. Is there anyone that wants to bring that up tonight, or you want to sit on it another month? Digest what we had.
Well, are we talking about chickens? in
Chickens
general?
right now, I'm
Oh,
talking chickens right now, then.
I think we would need to see an ordinance written out in order to
You
take
know
action
what,
on it.
Phil, I think, well, no, we didn't have an ordinance. Did I pass this out when you were?
I believe so.
He was remote that night.
Actually, it's this, you helped me with it, so.
Well, what we'll do
Okay.
is,
It's the same.
What are, just preliminary thoughts from the rest of council on that?
Mr. Reed, any
I don't see any issues with it. I mean, there's no roosters, right? It's just chickens. I mean, sounds fine to me.
Mr. Fox?
It's okay with me.
Ms. Stinson?
I'm concerned about enforcement since, I have harbored a chicken that was a fugitive before myself because I love animals. But I was asked had I seen it, no. But I have also witnessed chickens at a bus stop scurrying around children's feet and under bus tires. And again, it's the enforcement issue. And as been pointed out to us tonight, we don't always do a good job of enforcing ordinances we have, so I'd like to see us clean our act up on that before we strike out with new ordinances.
Good feedback.
I have pretty much the same feelings as Andy. I think enforcement's what's going to, we're going to see, way we were presented it last time, the could only have 4 hens, and they had to be in a coop, not running at large, and if, you're going to have some people that are going to have a whole lot more than 4, put them in a coop. how does the animal control handle that, you know?
Mr. Abel?
I don't have any problem as long as they handle the enclosure, you know, it's escape proof. Much as they can.
Mr. Miskovic?
I have no problems with it either. And does that ordinance address the enclosures and,
I thought it did.
and what?
Yeah.
what-
Yeah.
Okay, well then I would move for a public hearing on that ordinance.
So we have a motion for a public hearing on the proposed ordinance on chickens by Mr. Miskovic. Is there a second?
I second.
Mr. Foss seconds. Any further discussion? With that in mind, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed by like sign.
No.
We have one no. All right, so we have one absent, so it's 5-1. With that in mind, the motion carries. On the other animal ordinances, I will get with the town attorney. She has done some work for us already, and I will bring forward some ordinances that we need to consider, because even though we cannot enforce misdemeanors, the law, if a cop doesn't see it, he can't enforce a misdemeanor. But the people have a right to complain to the magistrate, and if the law won't hold up in court, they don't have the tool to do it. That's why our ordinances have to be fixed. So the people have a tool that they can use to take it to the magistrate if the issue becomes that bad. Okay? All right, with
I
that.
do have a question, and I have noticed this myself. As far as the animal waste, it seems like there's a real concentrated problem at the post office.
Yes, ma'am, I've had complaints, actually.
Well, I've noticed, I mean, I had one of the employees call me today, but I've noticed it in my walking, that it's, I would suspect there's probably 1 or 2 residents in that area that are walking their dogs after hours, because you never see any dogs. But how do we, who's responsible for keeping the area cleaned up?
That be that property or ours?
Well,
Post office.
I was just trying to think of a remedy for the.
Post office approached me the other day. They wanted to put signs up. They approached the higher-ups, and they said no.
which would be,
Post
you know,
office higher ups.
Post office said they would not put up signs because they were not going to intimidate anybody.
Now, rather than signs, if the town purchased, I've seen stands with plastic baggies for people to clean up their dog waste. Would that do anything?
Only if you fix the ordinance that we had discussed a couple of months ago, which was that
Did we
Virginia
have a
Beach
public
ordinance.
hearing on that?
We did not. We just-
Okay.
Yeah, because I was waiting to get feedback. So once if we pass that ordinance, the baggy thing will be enforceable. So-
now we got a big pickup and dump bags of dog poop
Well,
all over town.
you probably do that anyway, whether you know it or not. So, but you don't have to stick them up all over town, you just put one at the post office.
But the first step would be to have the ordinance for dog waste.
Yes.
And from what I recall from public comments, a lot of people were for that. And Councilman Reed had a draft that was,
Yes.
Yeah, I did, I can dig it back up, I'll have it on.
perfect.
All right.
Post office want to know how much impact it would be if they took a picture when somebody was walking their dog and had it on camera. Would that stand up as far as,
If we pass
Right
an
now, we
ordinance,
don't
that's
have
what
to.
it's
That'd
gonna
be
take.
passed ordinance, yeah.
okay?
Right now, no, but
Yeah, if we pass an ordinance, that's exactly what it's gonna take. And you're not gonna have many people who want to do that. What's gonna happen is, they're gonna call an office, and they're gonna complain to us. And they'll call the police, and they'll complain to the police. They're the ones that have to take their neighbor who's down the street that they don't really wanna make mad to court. And it ain't gonna happen.
Because it's not, unless the policeman witnesses it, the policeman
Can't do anything.
can't do anything.
But if there's an ordinance and there's a picture to substantiate it, then it becomes valid.
they have to go to the magistrate still.
Okay.
Right, that's what I
Just
understand.
where I was civil one.
All right, with that in mind, I'll work with the town attorney, we will get some stuff drafted up for your review and move forward on that. I have had multiple people ping me on these issues over the last couple of months, wanting to know where they stood. All right, with that in mind, we'll move into new business. Annexation, Mr. Miskovic.
Thank you, Mayor. As we've discussed before, there's a business that's half in town, half out of town, that benefits from both in town and out of town status. They benefit from in-town water rates, but they don't pay certain taxes for out of town. Or
The lodging tax.
Right, the lodging tax. Given that the town of Blackstone has recently requested and has gotten the county to allow annexation of just a small portion of the county, I would propose that we do the same and annex the rest of the Richmond property and request that of the county.
Any discussion on council? What he's talking about is annexing the rest of the motel up there to.
Right, to clarify their status and
Clarify
to
the
bring them
boundary.
in town and.
The way the boundary works, right now, the way the boundary is that the town of Crewe, the county line and the town line run right through the lobby, as I understand it. Therefore, they are technically a county
That's where they
business,
stand.
so they don't have to pay lodging tax, that we have a lodging tax for.
We don't have one.
We don't, I thought we had one.
We have to do that.
Okay.
We already have it.
We have
We
a
are-
lodging tax, yeah.
We did,
Yeah.
Yep.
we just don't have to go to toothpaste.
We don't have anybody to.
Better to have it is control.
Have it nice and- have it done.
Exactly.
So, all right, and that's the thing, is that you've got an individual getting, well, just getting the benefits of town services, but there's no lodging tax being paid.
If we annexed that business, I understand we're already providing most of the services. Would there be any additional services that we would supply?
It's only about, what, 12 rooms?
All we're gonna do there is just pick up the lodging.
That's all.
Because there are meters in town, so we get in-town water rates and sewer. We may pick up some additional tax revenue on the rooms.
It's not necessarily overly burdensome for the
No.
business itself, because that taxes pass on to
Pass
the
on.
customers.
That's pass-through tax, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, we gotta think a little bit about what goes across the road, what it's gonna pick up over there.
We can go across the road.
It was always to the railroad track.
So you're gonna extend it across 460. And I'm not sure right now what that might be.
My thought was that we just go along the south side of 460, but we can go.
I don't know if we do that, can we just?
We could,
Okay.
yeah, I believe we could,
Okay.
so we would,
You can't, it's not spot annexing.
no. I would recommend that once we determine what the boundaries look like, we're going to need to contact a surveyor and get the surveyor to draw out a plat for us, and then contact the county.
With that in mind,
Public hearings and everything.
we'll need a motion at this time to authorize the town manager to engage a surveyor.
Yes.
Do we have a motion to that effect?
So,
We have a motion to engage a surveyor.
Second.
We have a second. Who did the second?
Me.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, by like sign.
The next question is, what is it gonna cost us for that survey?
If I may, there's two basic ways you can go about annexation. One is the hard way and one is the easy way.
Easy way's better.
Yes, exactly. The easy way is if Nottoway County agrees, that's the easy way. Not, and then it's not very difficult. It's a lot harder if the county doesn't agree, so possibly, maybe council should authorize someone to talk to Nottoway and see kind of what they're thinking about it too, because depending on what they're thinking may
With that in mind, I will entertain a motion from council to authorize the mayor and the town manager to engage the county of Nottaway on behalf of the town council to ascertain their feelings towards annexation of that
So moved.
turf.
Second. Was the mayor's involved?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, by like sign. All right, and there's no further action we need to take then because we can't do a public hearing until you've got the survey and permission and all. All right, good. With that in mind, we'll only go to recreational zoning proposal by Mr. Miskovic.
Thank you, Mayor. Last thing for me tonight. I previously mentioned a desire to establish a recreation zones for specific areas of town. Such an effort falls in line with our HEAL initiative and would, I assume, increase property values for surrounding residences. The areas I propose for rezoning recreation are Galubik Stadium. The owner is Nottaway County School Board. The new children's park behind the VFW, which we now own. The railroad park, which is Norfolk Southern.
Wait a minute, I thought we owned that. Okay.
No, we own the museum.
Right.
Right. Oh, well, then I would include the museum on the list as well.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not include the museum on the list.
We'll have to do a little talking about the railroad
Okay.
park.
Well, anyway, Hooper Park is Southside Electric. They weren't opposed when I mentioned it briefly at National Night Out, but they said they would, of course, need their attorney to look at everything. Crewe Country Club, the parts that are in town, which I guess are the pool, the sheds, right? And then the library park, which we own, or the county owns, someone owns, we own. Next steps are to review the proposal, contact the owners of each property explaining our intent and noting any objections, advertise for a public hearing, hold public hearings to establish recreation zones, and rezone designated areas as recreation. And to vote to establish recreation zones and rezone designated areas as recreation. Basically, the recreation zone would preserve the recreational aspect of these locations. So I just need initial thoughts from council, and then we would get initial thoughts from the owners of these properties, and at the next council meeting discuss whether or not we want a public hearing.
All right, so we've got a month to sit on it.
Right.
Okay.
But if council is not opposed,
I just got this. I don't think
okay,
you
right,
need
no,
to go.
absolutely.
I like it in concept. Up to the council as a whole. All right, so let's take it majestic.
Sure.
All right, and then we can come back.
Perfect.
With that in mind, there's no new business, or is there any new business? Very well, we'll move on to points of personal privilege. Mr. Miskovic.
I've got nothing.
Mr. Abel.
I would like for the highway department to come in here and clean them streets out there, because when you get a real hard rain, the way these drop boxes are, they came in and cleaned one, and all it did was picked up the grass and put it back on top, and that little rain we had dropped it right back on the drop box. And if you get a real hard rain, it comes down, and I know, because I've worked in highways, you're gonna have standing water in the road, and somebody's gonna hit standing water and have an accident because those drop boxes are not dropping the water.
Okay, we've been having regular meetings with VDOT for several months now. We're meeting with them next week. We will bring this up.
They came in here, they cleaned a couple, but they didn't hit the one that next to Jack's office.
Really?
It has all the walnuts on it. The one I was standing with water up to my knees was lightning hit a tree the next block. When I was out there cleaning it one day, that made my hair turn white.
I bet it did.
You lost a little bit too.
Steered it off of me.
What's tonight? Ms. Stenson.
Well, one thing I'd like to bring up, what Councilman Abel was talking about, that VDOT has come around and taken down a number of trees that were messing up the roads. And I agree with that. However, they're leaving homeowners who are responsible from the sidewalk to the street for cutting grass. they're leaving them with big stumps. Now, gentleman in my neighborhood at his own expense had to have 3 or 4 huge stumps ground up so that he could, take care of that space. I think, I'm aware of one other resident who has refused to go out and do what he's supposed to do with it. It does seem to be a hardship, and it doesn't do much for the appearance of the residents
No,
that have.
Kyle Street's pretty bad, I don't know if you've done Kyle Street, but
Yeah,
on the
that-
left, it's just
Yeah, if they're gonna cut the tree down, why not finish the job?
finished the job.
I thought they were.
No, they didn't do any stump grinding, and I mean, it's a couple of big stumps.
So they're
Oh,
bad,
yeah.
too.
Well, the ones that I'm talking about that the gentleman paid his own money to have ground up are even bigger, were even bigger than those.
Can you be at the meeting with Dina? What time is it?
It's September.
Oh,
All right, he'll send us an email.
He said next week,
So it's next
I'm
month.
probably not booked up that far ahead.
we'll make sure it's after 10.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Fox?
No comment.
Mr. Reed? Very well, good enough. At this time, we return back to our public comment portion of the meeting. Are there any members of the public that wish to make a comment at this time? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Christensen.
And I stay sitting. Seems to me like a lot of what I've heard tonight falls back on Wade's shoulders to enforce all the time.
Oh, ma'am, that's what he gets paid to do.
Yeah,
The
but-
big bills too.
Well, but that seemed, I don't know, as a citizen, when I sit there, and I spent a lot of time in Wade's office in the last 2 weeks, it did, well, I have, but it seems to me that there is got to be some way, I don't know what that way is, I've just been sitting here thinking, that to get these ordinances that we keep passing, that we don't enforce, that don't do anybody any good if we don't enforce them, how can you keep throwing that on one person? And I realize that's part of what this job encompasses, but
You missed my earlier discussion, I think, my earlier comment. The reason we have to pass new ordinances is because the current ones are not enforceable. Therefore, we have to come forward and pass ordinances that are enforceable, that have requirements that are articulated clearly and definitely that a Commonwealth attorney and a judge can interpret when they do get enforced. The great challenge we have is that these ordinances were written in a day when you had mayor's court. The mayor's court was good at that time because the mayor knew everybody, and when somebody came in, when little Johnny Jones came in, he would know little Johnny Jones, he had flexibility in the ordinance to slap Johnny Jones on the wrist and say, and talk to his parents and say, don't do that again. And they could, there was greater flexibility, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was greater flexibility, and they were written actually to have that flexibility because it was always a local issue. But when the Commonwealth did away with the mayor's courts, they threw everything over to the general district court. Now everything's got to be very precise because you're dealing with a whole new set of laws. In the old days, the mayor and in fact, I've got a personal experience I can share. I got a traffic ticket when I was about 16 in the town of Berkeley. And I had to go see Mayor L.S. Hillsman. And I was scared to death. And fortunately, there was a lawyer that I knew standing right there in the door. He said, what are you doing here for? I said, I got a ticket. It was expiration of an inspection sticker, that's what it was. But it scared me to death at 16. And fortunately, there was a lawyer there that I knew, and he said, come on, I'll help you. And we went up to Mayor Hillsman, and he explained clearly to the mayor that it was my first ticket, my first offense, and that I wouldn't do it again. And the mayor slapped me on the wrist and sent me on my way. And it was that simple. I don't think I even paid a fine.
and so now in exchange for this, now we live in a
Overregulated.
an
Yes,
overregulated,
ma'am.
full of law society that is completely lawless. Makes no sense to me.
Well, judges have a favorite phrase they use when somebody brings an ordinance before them, void for vagueness, don't have to go with it. They can't be vague anymore, they have to be precise.
Yeah.
And then it won't be a lawless society.
And then, Lord heavens forbid, then we might use the wrong word.
That's good.
But see, the reason that, but
Takes your
yeah,
money, takes your chances.
there was a reason, because in those days, everything was local, government was local, and the mayor knew everybody theoretically, and therefore he could, if this was a juvenile delinquent, he could throw the book at him. an habitual offender kind of thing. But if it was a kid that made a mistake, you could slap him on the butt, scare him to death, and generally help him straighten up. Those days are over.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it also falls on the citizen where,
Yes.
you know, if we have the proper ordinance in place, then I can go to the magistrate myself, and I have the ordinance there to use as a tool. It doesn't necessarily just have to be
Yes.
weighed, right?
No, it doesn't have to be weighed. Actually, the onus of responsibility.
Well, on a personal note, I've had to do that. I mean, we
Right.
had to several years ago, on misdemeanor charge, take it to the magistrate. We won, I mean, you know, we prevailed. But it was just a general comment. I sit here and I listen to you guys
understand.
passing all this stuff and, hey, Wade, you know, who are you gonna enforce it upon today? I'm surprised the man doesn't have bullet holes in his front window, you
Yes,
know, every time he has to enforce something, you know?
I understand. Thank you.
Can I apply for the job of ordinance compliance officer?
Yes, sir.
I was just thinking, maybe Wade like needs an assistant.
Absolutely.
You should make a full-time position available for Wade Walker's town manager assistant.
Honestly, I don't want to in a hurry, but from where I sit, the problem, you can enforce an ordinance, but there has to be an end. And right now, that's where we run into problems. You can threaten, you can write letters, we cut grass, we bill them, but they don't pay. All right, what do we do then? I pointed at Tessie because then it turns into a legal issue, which the town and the taxpayers have got to be willing to pay an attorney to do all of this work, and unfortunately, honestly, it just dies.
It costs you money when other people don't pay their bills.
And
Because
here's
we
the
have-
difference.
Well, I think there also needs to be a beginning, when you.
Susan, here's the difference, and the mayor's talking about the way it used to be. Well, here's the way it used to be. People gave a damn about their property, they took care of things, they did not want to get a letter from the town. They were embarrassed when they got a letter from the town. You didn't have the problems that you have now.
They didn't want to see the name in the paper either.
Well,
I
then why
mean,
don't we start bringing
literally,
people's names
enforce
in the
an
paper
ordinance
again?
and they ignore it. And they cut grass, they
Only
don't pay
for
the bill.
property taxes.
You know, what do you do? How do you make them pay it? Attach a lien on their property maybe is the last thing you can do. Well, you still didn't get paid, and some of these people don't care whether you attach it or not. It's just the way it is nowadays.
Sooner or later, we have to understand that we can't legislate good behavior.
But we can embarrass people, and I do like the idea.
Well-
I'm sure Mr. Gunn likes the idea of us advertising these individuals in
I don't care anymore.
They're not gonna be embarrassed if they don't.
But I agree with Jessica, I mean, why not maybe some type of a
Mr.
part-time.
Miskovic has actually made a proposal before council that we have, it's in our package, not this package, but he's actually proposed for
Future
an
budget.
I
assistant.
still say then you're gonna have two people that are frustrated, because you don't have the same
The
problem.
first thing to do is to fix the ordinances, and we have to do that. All right, with that in mind, if there are no further comments, yes, sir.
First, I want to say thank you for revisiting the chickens in town. The city of Richmond can have chickens in town, why can't Crewe? That's ridiculous. I think the ordinance is an issue. I know you all will resolve that. The dog thing might be an issue, but I think a lot of that has to do with the owners in the community taking ownership on that and not allowing people to just let their dogs relieve themselves anywhere. I hope and ask that with us being in a food desert, that you all take this seriously with Family Dollar coming in. It's not just bringing in another store, another business, but we're in a food desert. We don't have a grocery store 15 miles of any area. And that's kind of bad. And it's been like this for a long time. If Family Dollar's gonna come here, that's fine, but somebody needs to say what we need. We don't need shelf-stable food. We need nutritional food. We have a lot of lower income families that are living here, and I think that we're missing the boat with meeting some of the needs for those families. When you talk about people not having some of the issues that they're having, maybe they can't cut their grass because they don't have any money. There are a lot of reasons. And we need to start thinking about some of those things.
Just one comment on the food desert part. We have been engaged with Harris Teeter and numerous other major places. I mean, every time I go into an off-brand grocery store, even I ask for the manager and ask questions. And the bottom line is they're all looking for roughly the same thing, and that's 25,000 visits a week and 30,000 people within a 30-mile radius. And if you were to take draw a circle around Amelia, Lunenburg, Blackstone, and Farmville, Crewe is serviced by, basically, their service, they all consider Crewe in their service area. So they're not gonna move to Crewe. I mean, that's what they have told me.
So then.
We don't know what might happen. What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
we still need to keep looking
Sure,
at it.
sure.
It's something that we cannot ignore.
Well, I agree.
There is a problem, you know,
Yeah,
all
but-
these is out there.
And I think these folks will, based on what Phil saw, I think these folks are gonna give you
I know
some
they're
better
coming.
grocery options as well.
Right.
At the end of the day though, when you really need something here in Crewe, your basic essentials, you can get them. You can, I mean,
It's
if
not the same.
It's
It's
not.
the same.
To have
It's not
access,
the
we
same.
are in a classified food desert.
Exactly.
To have access to healthy foods, I mean, it actually saves tax money in the long run because people are eating what they need to when they're not sick. They're not going to the doctor. A lot of people don't have vehicles, which also contributes to Crewe being a food desert because they actually cannot get to the grocery store that is over, 27 miles away, closest full-service grocery store or farmer's market. I mean, there are alternative options, is that we do have farmers, and yes, it makes it seasonal, but we can incorporate other things like have canning classes held at the library, but you have and they're advertised at a weekly farmer's market, and now you're teaching people not only how to eat well and giving them access to it and how to preserve their food, and it's building up your community and reminding your citizens that they're not being left behind.
I just got hit with a bolt of lightning. Can you two give your contact information to the town clerk? Because I may call on you, and maybe we'll set up a task force with Councilman Miskovic leading on a food desert task force, because he's got more knowledge on the food desert and potential solutions. But we need citizen input, and we need folks like yourselves that are interested to be engaged.
And
go ahead.
If I may, Mayor, another potential solution is to patron the grocery businesses that we do have in town that offer some of the fresh meats, fresh produce, and the more we patron places like A&J and well, for spices and such, the others, but A&J in particular, the more they can grow their own business and offer more products. They've been slowly expanding over the past several years because more and more people go there. So keep going there, keep shopping locally, and give them your business, and hopefully they can outgrow their current building, move to a different building, grow even more. Another thing that we're doing that the town of Crewe's passed resolutions on, and we're working with the American Heart Association is lobbying for funding for it's called the Closer to My Grocer fund. Which was money in the General Assembly that did not pass the General Assembly. It was proposed by Governor McCullough, and we supported it. But it's basically low interest loans and grants for businesses to help establish. So that's one way that we're still working. In fact, I've got a meeting next week or 2 weeks. But working from the state level to try to get assistance. So we're working from the state level and just shop locally.
With that in mind, I need to go into executive session unless there's anything further that's new. All right, with that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session consistent with Virginia State Code 2.2-3711A, subsections 1, 2, 3, and 5, legal, personnel, property, and prospective businesses. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed by like sign. Very well. We're in executive session. We're out of executive session at this point. I need a motion to certify.
So moved.
Second. Okay, certification. So we had Mr. Knight, Mr. Abel. And now we'll take the roll call vote. Mr. Reed, we're certifying that we talked about nothing in executive session that wasn't legally authorized to talk about per the rules.
Yes.
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 All right, we have a unanimous vote on that. We have certified, at this point, do we need another motion? Other to adjourn?
I did have one quick thing. I did err in my water report. I said that it was $910 that we would collect from the in-town businesses annually. That's monthly. The annual is $10,920. I'll send Mr. Gunner an email, but it occurred to me that 910 sounded really low for 91 businesses. So that was the per month, which would change just slightly the amount we'd be asking for, probably 49 cents rather than 47 cents, something like that.
Thank you for your work on all that, by the way.
Yeah, that was a good job.
That's a good job. With that in mind, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.